It's
said
Monday.
that?
Hello, Orbital. Hello. No, she's not paying any attention. Anyway, welcome. Monday, shooting the shit. Hello, Marisha. Hello, Hannah.
Hello.
Is that it? Oh, come on. We need
Hello. Look, you're making the baby cry.
Come on, Rish. Do your Blue Peter hello. Hello. There we go. Brilliant. Right, we've made children cry. Perfect. Today, we are talking about the American election. Hasn't it been an exciting week? Has anyone else? Really? Have you not all been glued to it?
Yeah, I'm not being facetious. Thrilling.
All right, I think you're really sarcastic.
You can't tell, Hannah. That's the problem. You're always so sarcastic. Like, you can't even tell.
Yeah, literally can't tell. No, but it has been a really, really exciting week. So first of all, we have the whole, what's the word called? Record-breaking revelation that Donald Trump is out. Joe Biden is in. Kamala Harris, first female of color vice president of the United States.
Not only is she the first female of color, she's the first female. She's the first person of African descent. She's the first person of Indian descent.
Yeah, absolutely. So, this is, people were saying this is like...
We're in a wheelchair.
She needs a limp and then she'll get that.
Oh, no.
Get us some ginger hair.
Roosevelt was in a wheelchair.
Yes, but he wasn't a black woman, was he? So,
No, he wasn't.
He only ticked one box. We're not interested.
Obama only ticked one box.
Exactly. So Kamala Harris is ticking all of our boxes. So anyway, we have a historic victory. Whichever side you stand on, whether you think that Trump is the greatest thing since sliced bread or not, it is a historic victory. And it's the first time America have ever had a woman in power, which is quite phenomenal for one of the most powerful countries, well, the most powerful country in the world, that they have only just got a woman leader, because, they're trailing quite a way behind. So today we are going to talk about, first of all, Kamala Harris, first female leader of the United States of America. And secondly, we are going to talk about the rumors.
Don't phrase it like that. What is an appropriate way to touch people?
Yes, all right. We're going to talk about the rumours about Joe Biden's behaviour, and is it inappropriate, or are we simply seeing it through the prism of modern eyes? And to Joe Biden, somebody who is 70, I would say 78, it's actually just, quite appropriate behaviour. So 2 subjects. So first of all, let's go with the easier one. Let's talk about Kamala Harris.
Oh, yeah. All easy topics. Yeah,
all these topics. So Kamala Harris is, as Hannah has already said, she's of African American and Indian descent. So her mum was Indian and came to the United States in the 60s. She was a really, really, intelligent woman. She studied, I think, at the University of Columbia. She was a biologist, wasn't she? She did something with genes. Genes, not Jes. And she was a kind of pioneer in scientific studies. Her father is of Jamaican descent, so he was African American. Came to the United States also in the 60s. And was also a very intelligent man. So she's the first female of mixed heritage, and she has made it to be vice president. What do we think about that?
What do we think? I think.
Well, there we go.
Pink silence. Do you know what? I find it's amazing, isn't it, that we have to have this conversation almost as well. That actually, only now is this an actual thing. That it's pointed out and stuff like that. And I think actually, part of me also thinks as well that it's such a big deal for the States. I think, in the UK, we kind of, we do have, different presidents, and I don't mean president, I mean presidents with the CE on the end, and it's this, we act differently, we have different all sorts of things. So it's almost like when it happens, when stuff like that happens in the States, and you only have to see, you know, how people react on the news, you know, it's such a big deal for people there. You know, I don't think we really comprehend how much of a difference, you know, it's going to make, and how much of a difference it makes people feel. You know, and in terms of, you know, the stuff that kind of triggers emotion is like, you know, little, you know, black girls saying, "Mummy, I can be anything now." Do you know what I mean? It's that kind of activity that, you know, is that's where it makes a difference for me, for sure.
It's oh, sorry, I've made the baby jump. If she screams, I'll just mute myself. It's representation as well, isn't it, though? Because like you say, they little girls, people of colour, people of mixed heritage, they see somebody who looks like them succeeding, and they, you know, realise that they can do it too. And it's so important. But I think, like with when Barack Obama was elected, and Theresa May and Margaret Thatcher, they kind of, there's always the temptation to go, this is it, guys, this is like this, the tide is turning, seeds of change have been sown, but then it just takes so much longer than you anticipate, really. And you know, Barack Obama had 2 terms and was voted in like pretty resoundingly in the first term, and you know, everyone thought, wow, this is it. And then look what followed. Look how much people didn't agree with having a black president, or racist, neo-Nazism flourished off the back of that. And unfortunately, it's really tempting to celebrate, but it does tend to track that when somebody who is marginalized gets a position of power, the amount of vitriol that follows like drowns it out. Like, look at Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. You know, she's just dogged by threats constantly.
I think as well, you know, it's that, you know, where you say we look for change, and we kind of think, oh well, you know, it's going to make such a big difference. But you know, these people, and I say these people, you know, meaning all of those you kind of listed, is that they've got it even harder, because they have to address that barrier first. So everything else that, you know, they stand for almost goes out the window, and what comes first is they're female, they're black, you know, they you know, grew up in fucking Harlem or Brooklyn or whatever else is, you know, out there. You know, they have to kind of go through that before they can actually talk about politics, or before they can discuss, you know, what actually makes a really fucking difference, you know, not that other stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Theresa May wore leopard print shoes, and the Daily Mail and all the rags went absolutely apeshit over it. No one was talking about her politics. Everyone was talking about her fucking shoes.
Yeah, exactly. Look at the fucking state of Boris. I mean, honestly.
I do think there is an element, though, that we have to look at this. Well, that article by what's her name, Gove's wife, when she wrote that, you know, the Battle of the Legs, and it was her and Nicola Sturgeon. But yeah, there is the thing is, though, if you look at it in the kind of context and you have that long view of history, of course you're going to get this. You know, somebody from a minority comes into power, they make a giant step forward, and then the normal regimes of power will obviously back that down, and we take a few steps back again. But it is still 1 step forward and 2 steps back, isn't it? I think one of the things that's interesting is that, exactly as you said, Rish, at the beginning, it's tempting to look at this from a kind of British point of view and think, oh my God, well, we did that. I mean, if you think about 2019, we had a female British Prime Minister, we had a female leader of the Welsh Party, a female leader of the Scottish Party, a female leader of Northern Ireland, a female leader of the Metropolitan Police, and a female leader of the Fire Service. So a lot of our most important people, and obviously a female queen. So it is a bit normal in Britain, but they were all white, and they were all of the establishment. You know, they were all middle class. There was no kind of minority background or poor background that they come from. Whereas Kamala Harris, you know, she is of immigrant stock. She's first generation born in the United States, and she has become vice president. So still, although, you know, the fact that she's a woman is a little bit like, oh yeah, we've seen women in leadership roles. We haven't seen somebody like her in leadership roles, have we?
No, this is true.
No, and it is true though. Like, it's one step forward and two step back in a way, and because all the prejudice, and particularly in America, like, I don't think it's, well, we're certainly not going to argue the fact that like racism leads to a lack of privilege and like poorer living arrangements, poorer education, poorer health, worse opportunities, yada yada, for people who aren't white in America. And that's a lot to fight against. And it's that kind of systemic racism that holds people of colour back in countries like America. And I am like hugely generalising, but you know, the stats support it. So anyone who's going to come on at me about that, you can piss off. Like, we're really popular and get loads of fan mail.
Take it to the Daily Mail, please. What the hell? What was that?
Yeah, no, but you know, like all these people that say, oh, you know, the blacks are killing each other. All them dickheads, piss off. And so it takes a long time for that to be eroded and for that to be changed. And I think you only start to see that when you have representation again in a political position who understands that and has seen it and understands white privilege and male privilege and all the other kind of privileges that they perhaps were looking in at. So it does take a long time to trickle down, and it is up to incredibly exceptional women and people of colour and women of colour to try and force their way through.
It's exactly that, isn't it? Because when you look at AOC and people are saying like now, AOC for the next presidency, she is still too young for the next one. But how, you see the amount of vitriol and hatred and death and rape threats that woman receives on Twitter on a daily basis, and all she's doing is standing up and telling her story. As she has come from a poor background, she knows what poverty looks like, and she is going into the House of Congress and Senate and House of Representatives, whatever, and she's standing in front of all these hugely privileged old white men and saying your reality is not my reality, and she is absolutely denigrated for it on a daily basis. And it takes a very special type of person to be able to do that, I think. And most women will look at that, first of all, will look at that and think, I'm not bloody doing that, no way am I putting myself through that. Or most people from poorer backgrounds are just too fucking busy trying to go out and earn enough money to feed their family. They haven't got time for that bollocks. So that's kind of what we're up against, isn't it? How do we empower more women to go into that space when it is such a dangerous and adversarial place for them to be?
I don't just think it's women that face that, people of colour. Like, I was just looking on Facebook, and one of our community forums, our local forums, had a post put on by the South Yorkshire Police. They'd been laying wreaths at some war memorials. And you think to yourself, what have they done wrong there then? But my God, the amount of vitriol. Well, shame you can't be doing this. That's not 2 meters. You haven't got a face mask on, blah, 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 blah. Like, they literally can't do anything right. Like, our MP is Tory, and whatever you think about him, he's present, and whatever you think about his policies, he's around. And every post that he puts on Facebook is just absolutely torn down, and he has been getting threats as well. And I think I would imagine everybody who puts himself out there in a political sphere is subjecting themselves to threats, which is absolutely fucking dog shit. Why do people think that it's okay to just threaten someone online or pull them down for doing a job? Like, you might not agree with them, but there's still a beating heart underneath it all.
Still people, exactly. And that's an interesting point, actually, because
and I think that is it. Yeah,
I love it with the lag. It's really helpful.
Sorry, go on, Rach. Go on.
No, I was thinking, there's a comment there about Michelle Obama, and she is from, a wealthier background and things like that. And in I kind of, I look at this and I kind of think, okay, there are people out there that look like me. Let's face it, I'm in that category. But they, even whether it be the UK or the States, there's still almost a level of privilege that comes with being able to get to that position, regardless of background. I don't know what that is or how or why, and there's people working all this stuff out, and but the reality is that I think you can't do right for doing wrong, because if you got to be an MP and sounded like me, then would it be a case of, well, actually you don't know what you're talking about because you've got an accent, because you don't know the big words, because of this, because of that, so you can't win, because actually if the people wanted a true representation of somebody that came out of the streets, if you like, for want of a better term, it's a case of, well, you can't win, so I think I agree, it doesn't matter whether you're male or female, you put yourself in that kind of firing line, quite frankly, because that's what it looks and I'm sure feels like sometimes.
There is also this there's this dichotomy, isn't there, that we want our politicians to be representative of the people and the places that they come from, but when we get politicians that are like that, we don't vote them into power because they don't look and sound like politicians. That's exactly, and Rachel's made a comment about, Kamala Harris is from a wealthier background than Michelle Obama, but they have both come in through the legal door, and that's where most politicians come through. They come into law and they then go into politics on the back of that. But in order to get into law, you have got to either have a bloody good scholarship behind you or some decent amount of family money, because just yes, you can get a state education at law, but buying the robes and going to the dinners and going to the bar and all of that is bloody costly, and that's in the UK. It's even more so in the US. So there's still got to be some money there, and there's got to be some privilege behind you in order to get into that position. And yeah, I don't know how. What's Rachel put there? Many people stereotype me. Sadly, women think that. True, yeah. It is. It's really, really hard for women who are from the kind of poor and normal backgrounds to get in there. And I mean, if you look at what's her bloody name? I think she's amazing, and I can't think of her name now. Labour MP. She was in the House of Commons the other week wearing a Doc Martens, and she's normal, yeah. And I've seen her speak at conference. Angela Rayner, yeah, that's it. She comes from a council estate. She's had a normal bloody upbringing compared to the rest of us, and people are constantly having a go at her and denigrating her for that very background, that oh, she's not educated, she don't know what she's talking about, she sounds thick, she's got an accent. And it's like, well, hang on a minute, how the fuck are they supposed to win? How are they supposed to win? What do you want, normal people or politicians? Take your bloody mind up. So yeah,
never happy, are we? That's it.
I think. No, we're never happy. We're never happy. What I do think, though, and to kind of talk about the differences between Kamala Harris and Michelle Obama. Michelle Obama has, without doubt, paved the way for Kamala Harris to be there. And I think Michelle Obama, she's one of my heroes. And I think she's absolutely amazing. But when I was watching that documentary, obviously. But I've read, her Becoming, and then there's a documentary on Netflix about it. If you haven't watched it, go and watch it. I cried all the way through the second half. But I think the thing is that what's sad and great about Michelle Obama is that she was there as First Lady. She wasn't there in her own right. She was there because of her husband. And for most of the last 10 years, the story has been that she has been somebody's wife. And she's trying now to break out of that. That's what Becoming is all about, and the documentary and stuff. But there was one point where she was doing an interview. She was on stage. Somebody really famous from America was interviewing her in this stadium about her book. And Barack Obama came on to deliver her some flowers. And the minute he came on, it was like, oh my God, Barack Obama's here. Everybody was talking about that. Everybody switched to Barack. And all the questions then were, what was it like being Barack's wife, and all the rest of it. And I thought, hang on, this is her story. This is her time to shine. Let her have the stage. Like, Barack, go and fuck off and look after the children and make her some bloody tea. And I do think, whereas Kamala Harris has now, you know, she's standing there in her own right, isn't she? She's not standing there because she's somebody's wife. She's got there on her own back. I don't know. What do you think?
Sorry, like even Hillary Clinton, like whether you like the Clintons or you hate the Clintons, and there's a lot of reasons for both, I would argue. You know, she was she Secretary of State? But again, someone's husband. But I was listening to this podcast called Slow Burn, which if anyone's interested, it's about the Lewinsky scandal. And so, but it's talking about how the Clintons came to be in Washington and what they were doing. And really, Bill and Hillary were kind of neck and neck in their little town in terms of power and success and authority and stuff. And then they came to Washington and it was just all Bill. Because, you know, you can't be a female president, apparently.
Yeah,
Slow Burn, recommend it.
What was that?
Yeah.
Slow Burn.
Isn't it interesting, though, that...
What was it called?
Slow Burn. It's interesting that just 4 years ago, you know, America was not ready. And I think probably if you know, if Biden had been a woman, they still wouldn't have been ready for a female president. But it was just so much of a step too far, wasn't it? And then in a way, the fact that Trump has been, you know, again, whatever your views of him, what he's done over the last 4 years has turned quite a lot of the female vote. I was watching a thing about this on the news, and they were saying that one of the main reasons that Trump lost was that the middle class white female vote turned against him. And that's the thing, that's the part of the electorate that swung it, and they think that it's because of his attitude to women that has turned them against it, and because of that they have gone and they've been able to vote for Kamala Harris. Now again, you know, just 4 years ago they weren't able to vote for a woman into a position of power, but now they have. So in a way, you know, Trump might have done us all a favor. He's got us women a little bit further.
So everyone's like, can't say thanks though.
It's just absolutely, I mean, I think people will study this for generations. Why the fuck did Trump win the first time and then still get 70 million votes the second time? What the fuck is going on? Like, how can anybody look at him and feel that he is credible? I mean, you could even say, all right, well, they do like the TV personalities because look at Arnie and look at Ronald Reagan. But even so, like, whatever you thought about Ronald Reagan, his economic policies were, you know, based in fact, at least. Like, and Arnie, you know, has got some things going for him. It just blows my fucking mind that you would look at that, read one of his transcripts, and just vote for him. 70 million of them voted for him. What?
I think that's the thing. That's the thing that we don't see and we can't comprehend, because the reality is that, you know, America, you know, presents itself, you know, in a particular way, i.e. forward thinking, you know, the biggest in the world, you know, this, that, and the other. But the reality, I think, is that, you know, there's vast swathes of America that don't, you know, it can't even comprehend that the rest of the world even exists. You know what I mean? They are so, you know, kind of protected from the rest of the world. Even like their news, like when you go to the States, it's like, fucking hell, is there any other news than what ridiculousness there is going on here? Do you know? If you don't know, then how would you know to ask?
I was listening to a podcast the other day, and it said on it that Americans don't realize that they lost the Vietnam War because it's not taught. They're not taught that they lost the Vietnam War. They thought that they just decided to leave. Like, what do you think that is?
It's incredible. It's incredible. I think that's the thing.
Well, I mean, there's a statistic that says, 75% of Americans don't have a passport. They have the World Series, which is, you know, just within the United States, and their news is just purely within. We've got several friends in America who, because they've come and stayed with us, you know, through Airbnb when we were doing that and stuff, and they will openly say that they will go home and they will say to their friends, this is what the rest of the world is thinking. This is what they're saying about us. and their friends will be like, oh, you know, no, they don't matter, they don't understand what it's like to be American. Get it? And it's a very, very insular country. That middle bit of America is very insular, isn't it? But we have brought us round to the second part of our conversation, and that is, now we're moving away from Kamala Harris on to Trump and Biden. One of the big things that I have been getting on my feedback on my Facebook feed over the last couple of days is about how they are with women and certain allegations about their behaviour towards women. I don't know. Have either of you, I know, Reece, you're not on Facebook, are you? So you don't get this. But
have either of you been
a lot of people commenting on Facebook over the last couple of days about. Yeah.
Not recently, unfortunately.
I have actually. Yeah, not by Donald Trump. Yeah. But yeah, I have. But I mean, this is another element of it, isn't it? Why has it been acceptable for Donald Trump to behave the way he does, say the things that he does, and then but Biden has some photographs of him with his grandchildren being a little bit over touchy-feely, and that's, you know, he's obviously a paedophile. How do these double standards exist at the same time?
Gosh, I can't even. It's like that. This, like, going into that conversation is such a kind of like minefield, I guess, really, and not because I condone that kind of behaviour, but because there is the where do you draw the line kind of thing, and you know, it's
yeah.
There's that whole, you know, oh well, they grew up in a different era.
So
there, isn't there? Whether you agree with it or not, or whether, you know, what your thoughts are,
yeah,
that's the argument for it, essentially.
This is Rachel's argument. Go on, Rachel, give us your argument. And also, Rachel Waring, can you please let us know what video you've seen today that's made you go blah?
I don't want to watch it.
I want to watch it.
Yeah, tell us. We need to know about this video. Tell us the video. Yeah, we need to know. But no, I mean, this is, I fully admit, I have looked at the photos, and there are loads of them online. Just Google Biden and the way he behaves towards people. He is very touchy-feely. It does make me a little bit cringe. But is that purely because we are looking at this through our eyes, through the post kind of Me Too era eyes? And I was saying this to Hannah, but I remember when I was a little girl in the 80s, and men would pick you up and they would sit you on their knee and they would expect you to kiss them on the cheek, and not just, you know, your dad and your granddad, all sorts of men. You had to hold their hands, you know, you had to sit on their knee whilst they talked to you and they had their arms around you. Men were touchy-feely with little girls. And part of me just thinks, is this what happens when we, you know, nothing against old men, you know, I'm not trying to say old men deserve to be taken out the back and shot, but, you know, they are of a slightly different generation. By the same token as well, most of the photos of Biden being inappropriate were with members of his own family. So again, where do we draw the line on this? How do we view it? Is it bad? Is he a little bit dirty and a bit cringe, or is he just a product of his upbringing and his generation?
I think you can be a product of your upbringing and a generation, and you don't have to inappropriately touch people. Like people have been brought up very religious or with very contentious views or very racist, very homophobic. You don't have to carry that on. And if it's not acceptable in the society in which you are not only living, but also campaigning to be a leader of, I personally don't think it's acceptable to be that level of touchy-feely with people.
This is another thing, though. Do you think there is anybody telling him? This is a problem when you get to men of certain power or people of a certain level of power. There are just very few people that will take them aside and say, actually, you're not supposed to do that anymore. You're not supposed to kiss little girls on the top of the head anymore. Do you think that just perhaps nobody has had the guts to tell him that this probably, you know, knock it on the head?
I mean, maybe he should just Google himself then. Because there's plenty of fucking people out there that he can tell him.
Mate, listen.
I don't know.
Yeah, go on, Reece.
I think there is, you know, there's I could ask that question for a lot of things, actually. Do you know what I mean? Like, a lot of people do things, say things, be things that they don't realise, you know. And I'm not, you know, condoning, you know, terrible behaviour, because there's a lot that people do realise and all of that kind of stuff. But, you know, sometimes, you know, if people can be really harsh, you know, for example, in conversation, but don't, you know, mean to come across that way, or don't realise what they're saying, or whatever it is, you know, and it takes someone to point it out and say, do you know, that's bang out of order. And they were like, what? Do you know what I mean? Like, without even realising, you know, that there was a problem. So, you know, yes, there is that. But yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, I also agree with that, you know, you can, you know, be something different regardless of what your, you know, background is, your upbringing is, your, you know, your situations, all of that kind of things. Don't mean you have to be an arsehole because of it, basically.
You can. I think one thing I think that people are struggling with, and I'm not condoning it, is that the world has changed very quickly. So Natalie, hi Natalie, she's put on that she worked at a company that we do know 12 years ago, and it was endemic there. And Rachel's made a counterpoint where she said that her dad was never like that. But the world did very quickly change for men when the Me Too movement. I do remember, though, my granddad always tells this story when he was in I think Debenhams in Preston, and a little girl was lost, and she was only about 4 or 5 years old, and my papa got hold of her hand to take her to the lost property department, or wherever you take lost children. Just leave her in this box under this counter. But he was leading her to a counter, and the mother turned around and realised this child was there and went absolutely berserk at him. And since then, my granddad was absolutely adamant he would never touch a child.
I will never.
Yeah, but you see that he was quite kind of woke for that generation. But for a lot of men, you know, Me Too happened kind of 3-4 years ago, and all of a sudden the world changed, and they're still coming to terms with it. Maybe Biden is just an old man, is a little bit behind the curve. I feel like I'm defending him too much now. I don't know.
And I think, like Alicia said, it's just an indication of why you shouldn't have 70-odd-year-old men in charge of you know, power if they can't assimilate into society. You know, 4 years isn't enough for them to stop touching people, then maybe they shouldn't be in power. But like she says, they're not Trump. I think the other thing as well that we need to remember is there are ample photos of Biden being equally gropey with men and women and children and, you know, his family, other people's family. It is across the board. He is a touchy-feeling man. Sorry, Aubrey's just talking to her hands. I don't know if it's coming through.
Yes, it's coming through. We can hear it. Yeah. So, I wish there was a man here who could pick me up.
So yeah, I think it's a sad state of affairs when people can't show affection to their own family in public. Like, I kiss my daughter on the lips, and she's 8, and I'll do it until she tells me not to. And like David Beckham kissed his 6-year-old daughter on the lips, and everyone called him a nonce. And, you know, I think you're allowed to be affectionate to people who want it and who you have that familiarity with.
Yeah.
But I think if you are trying to be the president of one of the most powerful countries and people are calling you out on it publicly, stop it. Maybe put your hands in your pockets, Joe.
Yeah, Rachel says go Aubrey. Aubrey is quite clearly gearing up to be on shooting the shit. She is a woman with a voice, and she is not going to be silenced. So go Aubrey.
Bless her. She's up.
But I think, and you know, everybody has said it now, he's not Trump. And let's not forget that whilst we are talking about Joe Biden being slightly inappropriate with people in a bit too touchy-feely way, Trump has had actual rape allegations against him. He has actually sexually assaulted women. He has actually owned up to the fact that he has sexually assaulted women. He's had umpteen wives, each one of which he left because he was having an affair with somebody else. He paid off a prostitute and had an NDA agreement against her. You know, this man, we're sat here going, oh, you know, is Biden a little bit cringe? And he is a little bit cringe, but Trump is fucking way off the scale, isn't he? Yeah. And there's just no getting away from that.
Yeah. And I think, but it's interesting there were similar allegations against Clinton before he became president. So in the last, like, how many years is that? That's what, 20 years, maybe?
Yeah, probably even 25, actually. Yeah.
There's like the men in power, and it's not just in America, is it? It is throughout the world. It's in Whitehall, without a doubt. If you've seen that,
Natalie's just said that Melania's announced that she's divorcing him. Has she? Has Melania actually said?
Sure.
Somebody Google it. Quick, where's my phone?
That's brilliant.
I wish I'd put money on it.
Do you know what? Let's just quickly talk about Melania, because I think she's really important. I read a really interesting article in the New Yorker about her, and it was saying like everyone's got this Free Melania campaign, and poor Melania, you know, she gets dragged around, she looks so unhappy, and blah blah blah. The reason that she stayed in New York for so long when Trump was announced that he was the president, and she didn't go to the White House, was because she was using it as leverage to renegotiate her prenup, her prenuptial agreement for her wedding. And she used the fact that he needed her to be in the White House to present this kind of coherent, first lady and POTUS or whatever, to renegotiate to get more money. And I think, all of the instances that you can quite easily Google them and see them, but of her slapping her hand away when they're getting off planes and shirking him off and not wanting to touch him, she clearly despises him. He has made her look, he's humiliated her with all this, sleeping around with prostitutes malarkey. But she is not a poor trap woman, is she? She is quite clearly. Yeah, she's a very shrewd woman. And I think, Natalie's just said fair play to her. You just took the words out of her mouth. I was just about to say, she has played the long game, and she has fucking played that well. So good on her.
There's the thing, isn't there? There's a comment there about, context is important. So there's your point. Is it that actually, we're all kind of on Melania's side saying, yeah, do you know what? You fucking wouldn't you? Right? Yeah. Given you had to deal with him. But actually, day to day, is that okay? Do you know what I mean? It's like there's context there, isn't there? It's because he's such an arsehole that it makes it okay. But actually,
do any of you think, does anybody watching as well think that you would help that man become the president of one of the most powerful countries in the world with a nuclear button at his disposal? Would you help him become president for your own financial gain? I think I'd smother him in his sleep for the benefit of the world.
That's how much he was. Come on, girls.
I was watching something, right, and I fully admit I think it was a YouTube video. I was doing my own research, but it was talking about Melania, and they were saying like all the subtle hints about her, and like when Trump was going on about the stuff at the border, all those bloody Mexicans can stay at the border. Melania went down there. All right, she wore a fucking badly judged coat while she was doing it, but she went down there to look at the children. Trump made some statement against Africa, and she went out to Africa as her first visit. There were other examples, but I can't remember them now. But kind of all the way through, what she has been sort of subtly within her sphere of influence, undermining him and playing against him. So I don't know. I doubt she had any influence in terms of him becoming president.
No, but I think, oh, sorry, I'll break my fork. All right, calm down. No, but I think if she'd have said, no, I'm not helping you with this. No, I'm not projecting the perfect nuclear family. I think he would have perhaps had a harder time with his demographic.
Maybe.
Well, as he said, he could have shot someone on Fifth Avenue and he wouldn't have lost votes. And I think that's probably the most factual thing he's ever said.
I think so. Yeah, he absolutely. Yeah, he could have. He played on the insecurities, and it's so ironic when you look at it from the outside and you see how manipulative that was. But that's what he did, and they would have followed him through hell and high water if she'd gone. So, what do we think? Do we think Melania is intelligent? I think she's going to have the last laugh in all of this. I really think she
will, but I still think her soul is as black as tar. Just like,
of course, yeah, absolutely, yeah, it is.
I think what we've come, like the conclusion that we've come to is that there are too many privileged, disconnected, old white men at the top of America, and whilst it wouldn't normally matter to the rest of the world, they're a global powerhouse in terms of it, like economics and in the military. So it does matter to the rest of the world. And when you've got a situation where like where 3 of the last 5 presidents or presidential candidates have been accused of sexual misdemeanors or outright rape, you've got a fucking problem.
Yes, absolutely. I do think, you know, if I was thinking as a little girl watching all of this, the women who have, you know, Michelle Obama, if you take her out of the equation, intelligent, educated women who are after power have had the absolute shit ripped out of them and have come out of it. They have been absolutely beaten to death and sent to the bottom of the pile. Whereas the beautiful women who have played the game and looked smart and kept their mouths shut and not done very much, they have risen to the top of the pile and they're going to come out of it smelling of roses. So, you know,
yeah, but she's not. Have a long way to go. She's not. So the women that you're talking about that have had the shit kicked out of them, they're the ones that have tried to make things better for everybody else. Melania went and looked at the children in cages in a shitty jacket, went to Africa to look at the people like in poverty there. Like, she's not done anything that's benefited anybody. If anything, she's made it worse, and she's just going to come out of it rich.
Yeah, exactly.
With a fugly son.
Yeah, so the lesson could be, women, keep your mouth shut, look pretty, and you'll be all right. Put your head above the parapet and be prepared to have it shot at. But anyway, we are coming to a close. What have we learned about women for the American elections?
I've learned that Natalie has got crystal balls, and I am in for that. I am in for that. I'm like, yes, get them out.
Yes. Natalie, we want to see your crystal balls. I think Biden, I don't know whether Biden will step down or die. It's questionable, really, isn't it? Whether he's going to make the next 4 years. But
I certainly don't think he'll win a second term.
I would love to see Kamala Harris as president. That would absolutely make my lifetime if she did that. I would be.
It's like soap opera stuff, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, like all of this, it genuinely feels. I know Aubrey, right? It just feels like something literally off. You know, like Home and Away or something. There's some script writers there, just like, this will be funny. Let's try this now.
Yeah, all poked off the head. What are we going to do to them this week? Oh dear, there we go. So that's the American election. From our point of view, we've learned nothing, but
valuable.
We feel better. Yeah, that's right, Aubrey. Well done. Right, thank you very much, everybody, for watching.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll be back next week with some more shit. Don't know yet.
What we're doing next week. Next week we're doing cancel culture.
Yes,
including J.K. Rowling.
Yes, join us then. Yeah, she deserved to become the horror of feminism that she has become, or are we a little bit on her side? Find out next week.